Hello and welcome to episode 5 of this series. In this episode, I want to talk about ViewChild. So ViewChild allows you to access child components from the parent component. So we have already talked about passing data from the parent component to the child component. But in this episode, I am going to show you how you can actually access, for example, the methods or the properties defined on a child component from the parent component. So let me zoom in a little bit and let's get started. So we are going to learn how to access and interact with a child component from a parent component using ViewChild, and this is very useful when you need to call, as I said, methods or access the properties of your child component directly from your parent component without using, for example, things like output or input. So again, using input, you can pass some data from your parent to your child. Using output, you can emit like an event which contains some data from the child component to the parent component that the parent component will get and consume. Now, ViewChild allows you to directly access the properties and methods of a child component from a parent component. And this is the scenario that we are going to implement in this episode. So in our application, we are going to create this booking summary component. The name tells us what this component is supposed to do. So basically, it is going to show the summary of each booking. We are going to see some bookings, right? Then we will be able to click, for example, one booking, and then we are going to see the details of that booking. So this component, as I said, is responsible for showing the summary of the booking that we select. We will have a parent component, for example, the flight list component, which will show the bookings for a flight, and then you can click on a booking and you can see the summary of that booking. And again, we are going to implement this using the ViewChild, and you will see how ViewChild allows you to access the booking summary component from its parent component. The first thing that we will do, as always, is to create our component. So we are going to use Angular CLI and GGC generate component, right, to create our booking summary component. And then inside of the booking summary component, we are going to define this input property. So basically, this component is going to receive a booking from its parent component. This is the booking, right, we want to show the summary of. So this component is responsible for showing the summary of one single booking, and this is the booking that it will receive from the parent component flight list, and it will render the details of this booking. And again, we've got this method here as well, this function to reset the booking. We're going to set the booking, the property here, to null. And then the template of this component is also easy. So basically, first we're going to check whether there is a valid booking object inside of that booking property. If there is, we are going to show the details of that booking property, like ID, passenger ID, status, and then we have this button whose click event is bound to the reset summary method or function that we declared here. So let me go ahead and create this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and then the application is running here, by the way. I can zoom in here as well so that you guys can better see what I'm doing. So first, let's create the booking summary component. This component is created, booking summary. I'm going to go to the TypeScript file. I'm going to close out this one. So again, the thing we need to do here is to create an input property and then create that function. And then, of course, we need to import the type as well as the decorator from Angular core. The next step would be to go to booking summary HTML and add the HTML code for this. So we're going to print the passenger ID, ID status, and so on. So I have told you before, in order to be able to use this ng directive, you need to import common module in your component. So I'm going to import common module, and now I'm good. Now let's continue with the notes. So now let's update the flight list component. This is the parent component for our new component. From this parent component, we want to access this new component that we just created. So the parent component is flight list component. This component will use ViewChild to get a reference to this new component we just created in order to access, for example, the property or the method of that booking summary component. But before we do that, I want to discuss the ViewChild a little bit. So ViewChild is, again, a decorator in Angular that gives you a reference to a child component. So we have already used, other direct decorators, like, for example, input, output, or the component is a decorator that turns a class, a TypeScript class, into a Angular component, to an Angular component. So ViewChild is going to allow you to have a reference from the parent component to a child component, or to a directive or a DOM element from the class of the parent component. So you can, using the ViewChild, you can access the properties of your child component. You can call its methods, or you can control its state from the parent component. So we are going to update the flight list component. This is the parent component. This is what we are going to do. We are going to define this array, which contains two dummy pieces of data to mock bookings. Of course, we could fetch these from a service. This is again something that we will probably do in future episodes using ngrx or rxjs, rxjs, not ngrx. And then, but for now, because we want to keep things simple, we have decided to define this summary, this booking array inline in the flight list component. And then I have defined a region here, as you can see here, to implement this new requirement. One of the things that you can do in your, for example, component files, TypeScript files, is to surround pieces of code with this region, let's say command in VS Code, so that you can better organize different pieces of code based on the requirements. Some people use regions for grouping, for example, methods or properties. For example, one region for all properties, one region for all, let's say, methods. But I think it is better to be to organize your code based on features, based on requirements. So in this region, I'm gonna put everything related to this new requirement, showing the summary of the booking. So let's see what we are doing. We are using this ViewChild directive. As you can see here, this is the type of the component that we want to have as our child component. Then it has a name. The name is booking summary. And then let me zoom out a little bit. And then the type is booking summary component. And then we have this selected booking of type booking or null. And then we've got two methods. So show booking summary, it's going to use this selected booking, and it's going to set the value of the selected booking to the booking it has received as an input parameter. So show booking summary is a function that it's going to receive, and it's going to receive a booking object. And it's going to set a local property at the level of this component, flight list component, to the booking that it's going to receive. The important thing, or the interesting thing, is happening here. So we are using this variable, which is now a reference to the new component that we just created, booking summary. It's a reference to that component because we are using ViewChild. So it is like we have like a reference to that component, to that booking summary component. We are using this reference now to set the booking that we defined inside of that component to the booking that we have received here. So if you remember, in the booking summary component we just created, we have this input property of type booking. Now that we have a reference to this component, we can access this property, right? So the thing that is happening here is exactly this. We are using that reference that we've got using ViewChild. The name is booking summary, as you can see, and we're setting that input property, which is called booking, in that component to the booking we are receiving here. And then you will see how we receive this, booking inside of this method. And this line is also very familiar, I guess, for you. So we are setting the value of a local property to the booking we are receiving in the function. Then we've got this hide booking summary as well. Again, here we are setting the local property, and we are again accessing this property booking summary, which is a reference to this component, and we are calling the method which we just defined, reset summary. So if you remember, in this booking summary component, we have this reset summary method, right? So this reset summary is a method which is going to set the booking to null, this property to null. And from this component, it's going to be invoked using the click event of this button. So from the flight list, we are accessing that method, we are calling that method. So in these two simple methods, you can see two very important things. Using ViewChild, you can access the properties of a child component. You can set the property, for example, and you can invoke the methods defined on that child component. So let me go ahead to the flight list now. Flight list is going to be our component, our parent component, and then I am going to get rid of this. Right now we do not have any bookings here, but I am going to define this array. So this array is going to contain some bookings. Again, as I said, using RxJS, you can fetch these, for example, from your backend API. And this is probably something that I will show you how to do in future episodes. Because this bookings array is not exclusively related to this new requirement, I decided not to put it inside of this region, right? Because basically this array is used from other pieces of code in this component as well. So this is the new requirement. Now let me import a couple of things. I'm going to import ViewChild from Angular core, and I'm going to import this component from its folder. So again, this is a way to organize your code. Just surround different pieces of code with a region tag or a command or whatever you may call this, and then come up with a good title based on the feature or requirement you are implementing. And Visual Studio Code has this great feature of expanding or collapsing these regions. So if you click, for example, here, you can collapse or expand these regions of code. Very similar to what regions, for example, do in Visual Studio. The trick is to start your region with double forward slashes and then a hash sign. So this is it for the TypeScript file. Now again, here you can pause the video and study everything on your own. I have explained everything here. So we have used ViewChild. This tells Angular after the view is initialized, give me access to this instance of the booking summary component inside of my template. And of course, we are going to put this booking summary in the component template of our flight list component. So booking summary is now a reference to the actual child component instance. You can read and write its properties or call its method. We have already talked about this exclamation mark. Sometimes it is called bang, right? Or the technical name of this operator in TypeScript is non-null assertion. And this is basically a way to tell TypeScript, because TypeScript is ensuring type safety compared to, for example, JavaScript. So using non-null assertion operator, you're telling TypeScript that this will be assigned after the view initializes, so don't worry about it. If I haven't initialized this here, no worries. Then we've got this method. I explained what this method does. It is setting this local selected booking variable, and then it is passing the booking that is fetched or received directly to the child component by setting the booking property inside of the child component. Then we've got hide booking summary, which resets the selected booking. This is the selected booking is defined at this, inside of this component, the flight list, and then it calls a method defined in our child component. This is called imperative control, meaning that you are imperatively invoking methods defined in your child component. Now, to use ViewChild, there are a couple of things that you need to understand and keep in mind. First, the child component must exist in the template of the parent component. We haven't done that yet, but we are going to do this. So basically, we need to add this booking summary component to the template of flight list. The child class must be imported, of course, because you're using the component. And so in order to do this, we are going to update the flight list, HTML file or template. We are going to add a reference to our, booking summary component, the component that we just defined, and we are going to have a button here. So this button, as you can see, is going to have a click event, and that click event is going to invoke that hide booking summary method we defined in our flight list component. Again, if you remember, in the flight list component, we've got this hide booking summary, which is going to do two things: setting this local variable to null, calling the reset summary method defined in our child component. And then we are, as I said, showing the booking summary component here. And one thing that I would like to tell you right now about the flight list, so flight list HTML, inside of the flight list, as you can see here, we are showing the different flights. We are going over the flights that we've got, and then we are going to render them. So right now, for example, we've got 2 flights, right? And then we've got this section for bookings. And then we are going to show the different, bookings or the details of each booking. So for example, first, if I click on each flight, you can see that I can see the details of that flight. This is done using this child component, right? And then we've got this form for the booking. So we can add a booking using the app booking form. This is what we defined and created in previous episodes. Then we've got this section, which is confirmed bookings. So for example, we've got 2 flights and we've got 2 bookings. So basically we are going over the bookings array. If you remember, in the flight list right now, we've got these bookings. So 2 bookings. We are going to go over them, right? And for each booking, we are going to, show this these LI elements. And then we've got the booking filter and booking list. Now, what we want to do is this. We want to change that section that is going to show the different bookings. Right now, we define 2 bookings. And then for each booking, which is going to be rendered inside of an LI element, we want to handle the click event. The click event is going to call that show booking summary in our TypeScript file. The show booking summary is going to do 2 things again. Set the local property of this flight list component and set the input property in our booking summary component. And when we set that booking summaries input property, this section is going to be populated with the details of this specific booking that we have clicked. So let me go ahead and implement this. So what I want to do now is to do a couple of different things. First, I need to get rid of this section. So these confirmed bookings, I am going to get rid of this and write the new version of this portion of the code. I need to import the booking summary in my component TypeScript file. So here, I'm gonna say booking summary component, and now I'm good. So right now we've got 2 confirmed bookings coming from the array that we defined here in our flight list. Here we define 2 bookings. So this section is going to go over those bookings. As you can see here, it is checking the length of that array, and if it is greater than 0, it's going to show them in li elements. And the trick here is that when you click one of these li elements, as I told you, the show booking summary from your TypeScript file is going to be called. This is the show booking summary. The show booking summary is going to set the input property of the booking summary child component. And we are showing the booking summary child component here. Do you remember in the notes I told you that when you are using ViewChild, you need to define the template of your child component inside of your parent component. So app booking summary is defined here. I mean, it's used here, right? Inside of the parent component, flight list component. So when this piece of code is going to set that input property, this section will get updated reactively, and then you will see the details of that booking. You remember what we did here, right? So inside of the booking summary component, which is our child component, this is the template. Basically, we're going to render an H4 element, and then we're going to render the details of that booking. So let's click one of these bookings and see if we can see the details of our booking here. So this section is what this component is going to render for us, right? Right now, because the input property is null, we are not showing anything. But if we click one of these, the input property will not be null anymore. You see? So we see the booking summary section. And of course, what I can do here is to either, for example, delete this to not see the booking summary twice, or, for example, change this section. But anyway, now, again, as I said, if I click, for example, a booking here, if I click a booking here, why am I seeing 2 booking summary here? Anyway, I am going to see the details of that booking rendered by my booking summary component. And then I can, for example, hide the summary. The hide, if you remember, this is the hide button, right? Hide summary. It's going to reset that input property of my child component. Or I can click the reset. So I can click the reset, or I can click hide summary. So this is the way you can access. Let me delete this. Reset, hide. Works now. So this is the way you can use ViewChild from your parent component to access a child component. So again, when is booking summary available from our parent component? It's only available after Angular initializes the component's view, the component's template, which happens after ng on init or before ng after view init. Now let's talk about the correct lifecycle hook to access the ViewChild. So this is your parent component, right? And you have defined a ViewChild to access the child component. Now here is one of your lifecycle hooks, one of the lifecycle hooks that Angular provides, ng after view init. Booking summary is now defined and safe to use. Console log booking summary is ready. So always remember, if you want to access your child component from your parent component in one of the lifecycle methods, the best thing to do is to access it inside of the ng after view init lifecycle. Not safe to access that child component in ng on init. If you try to use booking summary inside ng on init, it will be undefined because Angular hasn't rendered the child view yet. Why are we interested in using ViewChild? Again, what are the scenarios? So you use ViewChild when you need to access child component properties. You saw that we could access using that ViewChild reference. ViewChild is a directive, right? When you add it to a variable, that variable is converted to a reference to that child, to that child component. So using that reference, we can access the properties on that child component. Or you want to call child component methods. So we, for example, call the reset summary. Or you want to manipulate DOM elements. So ViewChild input element reference. We haven't talked about this, scenario in this episode. Or you want to focus on input, for example. Again, we haven't talked about this one either, but we will probably, in future episodes, cover these two use cases as well. But in this very episode, we talked about these two scenarios, which I think are the most useful ones. So run and test again. We did this also, right? We click on one of the bookings and we see the details of that booking rendered using the booking summary component. So in this episode, we use the ViewChild to access the child component. The child component is booking summary component. The parent component is flight list component. The parent can now call methods like reset summary from the child component to modify the internal state of the child component or to call one of its, for example, behaviors or methods. This pattern is useful when you want to have direct access to the child component, but you don't need to pass data using input or output. Again, be aware of the different options available to you. Input, output, ViewChild, and so on. And kind of use them judiciously. Use them to your advantage. As always, as every single scenario in software development, you have more than one option available. And it is your call to kind of decide which one serves you best, which one is the most suitable option in your specific case. You're not limited to using inputs or outputs, or you're not limited to using ViewChild. You need to understand the scenario and decide which one is the best option. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.